Are you tired of feeling like your stomach has its own agenda? Like the bloating, gas, or constant trips to the bathroom are running your life? Welcome to the Beyond Bloated podcast, the podcast where we tackle those frustrating gut issues head on, without strict diets or giving up your favorite foods. I'm Carly, a certified gut health coach who's been there, struggling with bloating that made me look 6 months pregnant, gut pain that kept me from enjoying meals, and fatigue so draining it felt impossible to get through the day. Now, I help women like you find freedom from those symptoms and take back control of their lives. Each week, we'll debunk gut health myths, dive into simple, actionable tips, and hear stories from women who've been exactly where you are. It's time to feel confident, energized, and bloat-free. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond Bloated podcast, or welcome for the very first time. Today, we are diving into a very important topic with a very special guest. I have done an episode in the past focusing on the autoimmune gut connection, but today we are diving deeper into Hashimoto's in particular with an amazing guest who has walked the walk herself. Sarah Kahn is an integrative and functional nutritionist who focuses on root cause healing for autoimmune, gut, and blood sugar imbalances. Her passion for helping others improve their own health was sparked when she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in her teenage years, after learning that her options were either A, deal with it, or B, go on a medication that she didn't necessarily need for the rest of her life. She decided to find a third option. Today, she is feeling better than ever and is going to share with us the steps that she took to overcome the chronic fatigue and other life-disrupting symptoms that her autoimmune condition caused her. And spoiler alert, it does involve improving your gut health. So without further ado, let's give a big warm welcome to Sarah Kahn. Thank you so much for joining us on the Beyond Bloated podcast today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carly. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I am so excited to get to talk to you today about this very important topic. But before we dive into that, I would love to hear a little bit about your own story and what got you interested in the gut health autoimmune connection.
Yeah, I'd love to share. Yeah, so I, like many people, got into this through my own health struggle. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's around the age of maybe like 13, 14. And it didn't really have like a major impact on my life. I was also so young. So like I wasn't really taking note of how, these symptoms were affecting my life and if they were connected to Hashimoto's. But it wasn't until I went to college where I really noticed the symptoms. Like I had really bad fatigue, really bad brain fog, and I also my diet was just really poor. I was doing at college. I was eating like a very carb and sugar rich diet, not a lot of protein. Like it was just, my diet was completely off. My sleep was really off. So I think it was just like the perfect storm where everything my body just completely was just in a state of shock. It was only then when I got really into nutrition, and because I would go to the doctor and I just feel like, I just feel fatigued. I feel brain fog. Like I had like joint pain, I was like 22, 23. It was just weird, like, why am I feeling like this? I just felt like I couldn't keep up with schoolwork. I just couldn't, just do everyday things. And the doctor would always respond with the same thing. Like, yeah, you have Hashimoto's and you can go on medication, even though your other thyroid levels are fine, or you can just live with this. Like those were really like my only two options. And it wasn't until I took a nutrition class, I happened to take one in college. And I just got really into it. And I just started understanding like how our bodies work, how autoimmune disease works, how everything's so connected. And I just started making changes to my diet. And it was amazing, the shifts I saw and just like how I felt, my energy, how I looked, everything just kind of like transformed. So I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome, and it was like really low risk things like changing your diet. It's not like I was going on medication. I was dealing with these other array of symptoms, which medication is great. But like when you're taking it when you don't really need it, it can come with a lot of like unnecessary side effects. So yeah, I just got really into it. I just started diving deeper and deeper into it just because I saw firsthand the impact it had on my life. And it just kept wanting to learn and study it and then all that stuff.
That's so cool. I mean, not cool that you had all of these symptoms and that the doctor told you live with it or go on medication when you don't really need it. But very cool that you took a nutrition class and ended up learning so much about your health, ended up improving your health, and now you obviously help other women do the same, which is so awesome. So that's the cool part about it. Could you share a little bit about what Hashimoto's is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease. And every autoimmune disease is basically when your immune system starts attacking its own tissue. So with Hashimoto's, that's its attack on the thyroid tissue. With like rheumatoid arthritis, that's your immune system attacking your joints. So it's your body's misdiagnoses your thyroid as not self and just starts attacking it. Another thing I just want to note too is a lot of doctors still to this day won't run a full thyroid panel on people, on women especially. And I think that it's so important for everyone when you go to the doctor and you're getting blood work done to get a full thyroid panel, which includes your antibodies for your thyroid, so your TPO and your TG antibodies. Because so many times, like I know I have Hashimoto's and I have to, kind of fight with my doctor to get those levels tested. So it's just so important because like early detection is really helpful in kind of preventing that autoimmune disease, in this case Hashimoto's, into turning into hypothyroidism. And so Hashimoto's is the number one risk factor for hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism is basically you get to a state where your thyroid gland is so damaged that it's just not functioning properly. And then you have to go on medication, which helps level off the hormones. But the thing with medication is it doesn't always relieve symptoms for people because your hormone levels are fine, but that underlying chronic inflammation and the attack on your thyroid gland is still undergoing. And I think our medical system is kind of this one size fits all. So it's that one medication might work for some people, but not for others. So there's so many things you can do to prevent it from progressing. So just important to get that tested for everyone.
It's so true. I remember I was trying to figure out if I had any sort of thyroid thing going on when I was on my own health journey. And
Yeah.
the only marker they would test for me was my TSH. And I was like, well, that's one. What about the other ones? And they were like, well, your TSH is in range. And by the way, it was in range within the medical
Yes.
standards. It was not optimal at that time.
Yeah, it's crazy how much you have to just be your own advocate. Like you just have to fight to get these levels tested. And that's such an important point that you brought up. Like it's in range with the medical, convention, which is like TSH value 1 to 4, but that's including all people. That's people who have hypothyroidism. It's just taking the average, where the ideal range is 1 to 2. So you could be at like that 3.5 range where, you have hypothyroidism or, you have fully progressed Hashimoto's, but your doctor's just kind of writing you off as, no, that's fine. It's either your symptoms are all in your head or just nothing is wrong. Just eat better and exercise. It's just like the standard response you get.
Yeah, drink more water.
Yeah.
Yeah, very important to advocate to get tested and then also do your own research on if those levels are optimal and not just okay in the medical world. So, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And then where does gut health come into play? I know you are a big advocate for improving your gut health to improve autoimmune symptoms, even prevent autoimmune conditions. So, can you
Yeah.
tell us more about the connection there?
Yeah, absolutely. So autoimmune and like its name, it's an immune system issue because your immune system's attacking your thyroid, thinking it's the pathogen, it's not self tissue. The gut contains like now research finding 70% of your immune system lies within your gut. And so you can't really address autoimmune disease without addressing the gut and your gut health. There's also a gut thyroid axis. So, research is finding that there's a bidirectional relationship between your thyroid health and your gut health. And if you improve your gut health, that leads to improvements in your thyroid health and vice versa. You improve your thyroid health, that improves your gut health. The thyroid, it's an endocrine organ, and it's just kind of like a master, just kind of directing and regulating a bunch of different processes that occur in your body. Your metabolic health, your, heart rate variability, brain development. That's why a lot of the symptoms with Hashimoto's is brain fog, or just the feeling of always feeling cold, fatigue. So like it really controls a lot of things across your body. And then another thing it really has a big impact on is digestive health. And that is because the two main hormones from your thyroid, T4 and T3, are big regulators when it comes to gut motility and then also digestive enzyme production. So when your thyroid hormones are low, so when you reach that state of, progressed Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, that decline in thyroid hormone function leads to reductions in gut motility. So, you just have feelings of you're just bloated, and then also digestive enzyme production. So, you're just not digesting your food as well. So it really impacts your gut health on in a really significant way.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I am a big believer that everything really does start in the gut, including autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's. And that was a great explanation as to how they are connected. I know there is also a component of leaky gut that can kind of trigger those autoimmune conditions to start. I have talked about leaky gut on this podcast before, but I would love to hear your input on how leaky gut is connected to autoimmune conditions.
Yeah, definitely. So with autoimmune conditions, a lot of times you can have it genetically in your family. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get that autoimmune condition. Things have to trigger it. And that's why it's so important to find out if you have it. Because like if you know you have it, you can kind of control those symptoms, like anything from triggering it. And so, things like infections can trigger it. And then gut health is a huge contributing factor to it. And so leaky gut really, it's like, just to give a quick overview, it's when the lining within your small intestine, those cells that kind of form that lining, the bonds break. So you have like things like undigested food going through, pathogens, any toxic material going out when it should be staying in. And what that leads is you have this pathogenic item leaving the intestine when it shouldn't, and it's causing an immune activity. Your immune system is attacking it, is thinking what's going on. So sometimes in conditions where you have Hashimoto's, it exasperates that attack. So that Hashimoto attack just gets exasperated. So you just see, your thyroid gland is just getting attacked even at a more significant level than it was before. Or it could trigger it where it's like everything was kind of kept at bay. And then you have this leaky gut and you have this constant immune activation, leading to chronic inflammation, which triggers the activation of Hashimoto's. So really important to kind of get that leaky gut under control, because it can really prevent you from either, triggering Hashimoto's from coming or just exasperating an already Hashimoto's diagnosis. Then even to follow up with that, another contributing factor is gut dysbiosis that really triggers autoimmune disease, and especially, in Hashimoto's. And so gut dysbiosis happens, from a lot of lifestyle factors. One of them is chronic antibiotic use. Antibiotics definitely have their place, and like you need to take them when you have a bacterial infection, but doctors sometimes just give out antibiotics every time you have a cold. So chronic antibiotic use, what that happens is antibiotics don't just get rid of the bad bacteria, they also get rid of the good bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. And then when you get rid of the good stuff, it kind of leads for the bad pathogenic bacteria to grow. So you just have this really inflamed gut condition where you have not enough of the good bugs and a lot of the bad bugs growing. So you just also lends to this chronic inflammation issue that you get into. Other contributing factors is like poor diet. So, a diet that's poor in like fiber and protein and essential fats and rich in like sugar and carbs without balancing it out with, the nourishing stuff. Your gut bacteria thrive on fiber. So if you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables and fiber rich foods, it's going to really impact what your gut microbiome looks like, and that really enables for that bad gut bacteria to grow and the good ones just to decrease completely, which leads to that chronic inflammation, which leads to triggering that autoimmune disease. With autoimmune disease, keeping inflammation at bay is so important, and the gut plays such a big role in inflammation and in inflammatory processes in the body.
Definitely a lot of good information there. So basically, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition, and having poor gut health, like dysbiosis, leaky gut, can trigger autoimmune conditions, make them worse, make your symptoms worse. Things like poor diet, poor lifestyle factors, things like stress, I know, not sleeping enough, all the things can contribute to dysbiosis and leaky gut. So if you have poor gut health and you have an autoimmune condition, or you have, like you said, the gene, you may be more susceptible to that. I would highly recommend working on your gut health, because it is not like a life sentence. It is not, well, you have to live this way forever, or too bad, take this medication and just suffer. You can improve it. You, Sarah, are living proof that you can improve your situation. So I'd love for you to give us some top tips on maybe how you improved your own situation, how you help your clients do it. Basically, the rundown on how do I improve my autoimmune condition symptoms or my gut health so I don't develop the immune condition in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share with you. Yeah. And just, yeah, to your point, that's such a great point is this, just because you are genetically susceptible to an autoimmune disease doesn't mean that you're going to get it. And if you do get it, you can also, you can really manage symptoms or even, put it into remission. So just so important because like, I just don't think people hear that enough. They just kind of think like, oh, whatever, it's just going to happen to me. So like I might as well just eat the foods I eat or just live the lifestyle I live. But there truly is just so much you can do to like improve it or get ahead of it and just avoid it from even occurring. And so my top tips, yeah. So with the people I work with, I follow a very nourish first approach. So I'm very focused on instead of just like removing foods right away, let's focus on getting more of the good stuff in. And just an important note is your gut microbiota, your gut microbiome, it adapts to what you eat. So when they come in with just like a ton of energy and they're just ready to make this change and they do like a full 180 with their diet. And that makes it much harder for you to enact sustainable change because your body is going to react with such a drastic change. You might get headaches, you might feel fatigued. So it's really important, or I find it to be way more successful to do a nourish first approach. Instead of like pulling out all the bad stuff, let's start getting more of the good stuff in. And the good stuff when it comes to gut health is really fiber. Fiber is so important. So just my tip first when I start working with people is just let's get more fiber in. So in every meal, I just want to make sure whatever you're getting, let's increase it by 20%, the amount of vegetables and fruits that you're getting. So, if for lunch you usually have a sandwich, like let's add a little side salad with that, with whatever vegetables that you like, whatever leafy greens, let's just add some vegetables. So just that's like number one, just focusing on adding more fiber into your diet. And the second thing is diversity of fiber. Your gut microbiota loves diverse fiber sources. So just, getting that diversity. And so when you go to the grocery store one week, you pick up one set of vegetables and fruits. When you go the next week, pick up a different set of fruits and vegetables. Another tip I would have is going gluten-free. So the protein in gluten, gliadin, resembles your thyroid hormone protein. So what happens is the body, you ingest gluten, it thinks it's your thyroid and it starts attacking it. So it just increases the attack. And I see when people just cut gluten out of their diet, they see like up to a 50% reduction in their antibodies. So it really has a significant impact. Gluten also, just the gluten we eat today is very hybridized. It's not the gluten that our grandparents ate. It's heavily sprayed crop, especially in the United States. So removing gluten really helps. Gluten also is a big contributing factor to leaky gut. Removing gluten or just even going gluten light is really impactful. Just to follow up to that, removing gluten is really helpful, but I see a lot of people, they'll remove gluten, but there's so many gluten-free products that are heavily processed. So opting for just better gluten-free options. So, when you're eating a meal, instead of having like make a one pan dish and, throw some sweet potatoes as your carb source or plantains. So try to stick to more whole food options. And then there's definitely less processed breads out there. So, there's siete wraps. Those are great alternatives. Jovial brown rice pasta. They're not heavily processed gluten-free options that I think are great and really help with just improving your Hashimoto symptoms and just keeping that inflammation at bay.
I love that too. And I like how your first approach is to add, not restrict. That is a big part of my philosophy as well. I never want people to feel sad about the food that they're eating or feel deprived. I myself am gluten-free. I have been for nearly 7 years now. So I know what it's like to find out you have to eliminate gluten from your diet. And coming from someone who ate very, very poorly, it was hard to make that shift. But I will say now, I don't regret it. I do not miss the foods that I used to eat because I eat them all still. I just eat better versions of them. So it's just a shift. It takes time to find the replacements, but you feel so much better that it becomes more motivating. You like it, you find new foods to try and eat, and it becomes fun. It just takes time. So I know people are going to hear like, go gluten-free, and they're going to be like, what? No. If it will help you feel better, is that worth it to you? Is kind of the question you have to ask yourself, right?
Exactly. And to your point, that's such a good point. It takes time and it's this positive feedback mechanism where you do it and you're like, oh, I feel better. I can, remove it out more. I didn't do like a full gluten-free, one day I decided to go gluten-free and that was it. It took me some time to go completely gluten-free. And just like I had to find like the right substitutes and the right things where I didn't feel like I was deprived or I didn't feel like I was missing out with some of, the gluten food that I loved. Because I did eat a lot of gluten before. Today, I feel like there's just so many good options. Like every day, I feel like there's like some new brand that's creating this new gluten-free alternative. So we are really fortunate to have access to all of these products where I feel like 20 years ago, it was really hard to go gluten-free. And I have friends who have celiac who just can't eat gluten at all. It's really hard when you're just a kid and there's no products, out there and you're just kind of going to restaurants and you feel so restricted. So definitely very lucky to have the options that we have. But yeah, you don't have to do this over one day. It definitely takes some time and you have to give yourself some grace as you kind of transition.
For sure. And progress over perfection is another one of my favorite mottos because you don't need to be perfect, especially right out the gate when you are just trying something new. Like just make small changes and the small changes add up big time. So you don't have to do this big dramatic overhaul right from the start. And as you mentioned earlier, it isn't sustainable to do that from the start anyway. Like anyone can do something really restrictive and hard for a short period of time, but that's not our goal. We want you to feel better for the long haul, making these changes over time with the support of someone, ideally, who can help you, hold you accountable, support you, provide you with alternatives. That's going to make it a lot easier as well. And I was wondering too, so for people who might suspect they have Hashimoto's or another autoimmune condition, but their doctor refuses to test them or their labs are normal in regards to the medical system, what are some symptoms or things that someone should look for to maybe have an inkling that, oh, I do have Hashimoto's perhaps, or another autoimmune condition? Hey everyone, Carly here. If you are tired of feeling bloated and uncomfortable, which I know you are, I have something that can really help. My free ultimate guide to bloat busting. I've been there myself, and I know how frustrating it is to try super restrictive diets and expensive supplements without getting results. If those methods were going to work, they would have worked by now. That's why I created this guide to offer you a different approach. In the Ultimate Guide to Bloat Busting, you'll learn techniques to listen to your body and eat with intention, avoiding overeating and choosing foods that truly benefit you, tips for proper hydration to support digestion and reduce bloating, a guide to delicious foods that promote a healthy gut and how to easily incorporate them into your meals, and effective methods to manage stress, which plays a huge role in gut health. These simple, practical strategies can make a big difference in your daily life, helping you feel lighter, more energized, and comfortable in your own skin. Ready to ditch the bloat without strict diets or costly supplements? Download your free copy today at beyondbloated.com/ultimate-guide and start your journey to a bloat-free life. Now, let's get back to it.
Yeah. So, if you just general feeling of unwell, like I know these symptoms, like it's like fatigue is a huge one with all autoimmune diseases. Fatigue with Hashimoto's, it's fatigue, it's intolerance to cold. So you just feel cold all the time. Or you just, you run cold. Some people experience hair loss. It's the thinning of your eyebrow. So like the beginning of your eyebrow, that's also a sign of Hashimoto's or thyroid issues. Brain fog is a big one. Your thyroid hormones plays a huge role in your brain and cognitive health. So that's another symptom for sure to look out for. I would say if you suspect it, I would just keep pushing back on your doctor. I mean, testing for these antibodies are not hard. They could just test its serum. You go to get a blood work done. It's nothing for them to run it. But yeah, if you suspect it, another tip I would just definitely recommend for anyone who thinks they have autoimmune condition or anything is checking for nutritional deficiency, one of them being vitamin D. So going back to like the conventional medical range, if you're within 40 for your vitamin D, they think that's fine. You really want to be around like that 70 range. And that makes a huge impact on vitamin D plays a huge impact in your immune system and also your gut health. Like when you're vitamin D deficient, they've seen an increase in pathogenic bacteria. So just having adequate vitamin D status plays an important role for your immune system, your gut health. It just plays a significant role in so many things. So that inflammation is so important. So taking an omega-3 supplement, which is really impactful for inflammation, is super helpful. And then just, if you haven't understood, you have any other deficiency, like iron deficiency can exacerbate autoimmune conditions, zinc, magnesium. So all just important factors to consider. But yeah, especially if you're feeling just unwell, fatigue, brain fog, just hair loss, just making it difficult for you to kind of go day by day, I would definitely check in with your doctor to see if you have any type of autoimmune condition.
Good advice for sure. And on that note of the scale again, the medical scale versus the optimal scale, I myself I tested my ferritin about 3 years ago now, and I was low 30s. And
Yeah.
I was told I'm fine because
Yeah.
I'm within range, whereas below 30 is considered anemic.
I know.
And, and after doing my research, I found that women really should be closer to like 100 for their ferritin levels to be like optimal. And I was like, I'm like 30. Okay, I need to start working on this and improving my gut health still, and other aspects of my health to get this up. And it has since come up and we're getting there. But again, like you can't trust these medical ranges. Again, we're coming back to push for the testing and then do research or work with someone who knows the ranges sadly better than your medical doctor, because you could have 32, I don't know the measurement, for ferritin and think you're good when really you're borderline anemic like I was.
Yeah. And then it's like you go from 30, and then if you reach like 25, which is just 5 points lower, they're like, oh my God, you need an IV transfusion of iron. How how did you jump from that? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. And I'm sure like once you start getting your iron up, you started feeling so much better. Like I know I did. Mine was also like similar to yours, like in the 30 range. And I was like, I don't know why I'm tired. And I was like, oh, now I know. You just feel so
Yeah,
better getting that level up.
absolutely. And then the other point you made is that basically if you feel unwell, it's likely an issue, autoimmune or gut or both. And ultimately, it doesn't hurt you to do the things that we're recommending, right? Improve your diet, improve your lifestyle, manage your stress. And if you do these things and you start to feel better, that is also a very clear indication that it was likely gut health, autoimmune condition, any of the sort. But the goal is to feel better, right? So I
100%.
would suggest trying these things regardless, because They're not going to hurt you. If anything, they're just going to help you feel better without the headache of having to argue with your doctor.
And they're so low risk, like increasing your consumption of probiotic foods. I mean, like easy way, like eating more sauerkraut, more kimchi, like more kefir, more yogurt. Like these are they're delicious things to incorporate into your diet. And, like so low risk, like it's just good for your health overall. I think that's what I really love about like the nutrition and health spaces. You're doing all these interventions that are they're really low risk. Like, it's not like taking medication where there's side effects. And it's like there's only upside, these are only new, you're just nourishing your body with food. So it's great. It's like a great low effort way of kind of making yourself healthier. And it also is, it's a good way. It's almost like sometimes I say when people have gut issues and they're dealing with it at a really young age, I'm like, it's almost like a little blessing in disguise because you can learn how to really nourish your body properly. And that helps you just stay healthy and fit throughout your life. Like it really sets up such a powerful foundation where it's not, you get to an age and you're struggling and you're like, I've eaten like this for like 50 years. Now you're saying I have to start eating the Mediterranean diet. It's just too hard. So it's just a great way to kind of learn what your body really needs and learning to nourish your body with the foods that will really support your health in the long run.
So true. I, to this day, still say developing gut issues was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the worst thing and the best thing because I have changed my life completely. I feel fantastic. And as you said, I will feel fantastic for the rest of my life because I have set myself up on these habits that have truly become habits. It does not feel like effort anymore. I eat well. I just know what to do. And it becomes a lot more natural and effortless and you feel great. So you want to keep doing it. And then you want to help other people do it because you feel so great. And it's like, this is selfish to keep it to myself. I need to help. With that, I would love for you to share where we can find you so people can learn more about your work and potentially work with you.
Yeah, I'd love that. You can find me on Instagram, sarah.k underscore nutritionist. I also have a website, Sarah Functional Nutritionist. And so those are really the two best places. And then you can also just reach me via email. So sarahfunknutritionist@gmail.com. But any of those avenues are great ways to reach me. And I'd love to work with anyone who's either, struggling with gut issues or autoimmune disease or, has it in their family and wants to kind of get ahead of it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I will link all of that information in the show notes so people can find you, learn more about you. And I, again, always like to encourage people to reach out to someone who has experienced what they have. So anyone listening who has Hashimoto's, suspects they have Hashimoto's or another autoimmune condition, Sarah has been in your shoes. She has come out the other side. She was very passionate and very intelligent. She knows what she's doing. And I have all the faith that she will be able to help you get through that rough patch of your life and be thriving like she is today. So I encourage everyone to go check out Sarah. And I want to thank you again for joining us today. This has been really insightful. And I love learning about your expertise. I love learning in general. So thank you for sharing all of your information with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved this conversation with you today. It's been so fun.
Did you learn something new and useful today? If the answer is a big, resounding hell yeah, do me a favor. Subscribe to this podcast. Even better, toss a rating in there too. It helps more bloated babes discover this show and lets me keep bringing you this free, gut-loving content every single week. And hey, don't be greedy. Share this episode with your bestie who's always unbuttoning her pants after dinner. She will love you even more for it. Thanks for hanging out with me and showing your gut some love. Keep on putting what you learn into practice and you will be bloat-free in no time. Catch you in the next one. Bye.